Right, welcome everyone. Apologies today. We have apologies from Chairman Nicol, Horrell and Phil Morrison. Any other apologies?
I'm happy to move those.
We'd like to move those, Jeremy, and a seconder, Alistair. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Gary. Any declarations of interest today? Nobody? All right, thank you. Public forum petitions and deputations. Today we have a presentation from the group that are interested in our procurement policy alignment. So would you like to come forward? Welcome. Yes. That's very good. Now, I'm sure you understand that, so each speaker is allowed 5 minutes, and then there may be time for questions of clarification afterwards, not for any debate or anything like that. So if you're ready to start, please do so.
1 second. Yeah, pure cutter. My name is Dr. Anna Palliser. The mask is because I was sick with COVID from 2 weeks ago. I'm quite a lot better now. I'm not infectious, but I'm just erring on the side of caution. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. So that means everybody else can. Thank you.
Even though the chance is macroscopic. This is Seren Palliser, and she's going to help answer questions if necessary. Okay. So this morning, I've got a letter to read, a statement to read from a young woman called May, who's a young Jewish woman who wanted this read out at this meeting. So I'm going to read that out, and it's going to be followed by 3 short, concise points that I'm wanting to make. All right, that's what this is going to be this morning. So this is the letter from May, the statement from May. My name is May. I came to New Zealand 8.5 years ago from Israel and recently became a citizen. I was born and raised in West Jerusalem to a family descended from Eastern European Jews who escaped Nazi Germany in 1933. My maternal grandfather joined the Jewish armed group, the Stern Gang, at age 17. My father came as a zealous Zionist at age 18 to Israel from South Africa. I was born into the Zionist world in 1984, knowing nothing else. I grew up in a bubble, believing what I was taught from kindergarten. I learned we are good, the Arabs are all bad. We want peace, they want to kill us. It was much later that I learned the truth. Bit by bit, the mask came off. Bit by bit, the truth about 1948, 1967, the occupation, and the reality of the so-called only democracy in the Middle East shattered. 77 years ago, Palestinians were forced out of their towns, villages, homes, and orchards. 58 years ago, Palestinians watched as the remaining bit of their homeland was brutally taken and their freedom stolen under apartheid and military rule. 18 years ago, Gaza fell under a blockade, turning it into an open-air prison. Now, counting 615 days of live-streamed genocidal slaughter of the Gazan people, 57,000 people are dead, and that's expected to rise. Watching the society in which I came from commit such hideous crimes with complete impunity makes me outraged, disgusted, and ashamed. Watching the Western powers support, excuse, and cheer on is no less horrific. In order to bring the Israelis and their leaders to stop, international pressure must persist and increase. Israelis will not wake up tomorrow and realise what they're doing is wrong. 80% are in support of the ethnic cleansing in Gaza, shows the latest poll. My obligation is for justice. I will not excuse this madness. It is because of my ancestors being killed by the Nazis that I can't bear to watch a Holocaust happen and say and do nothing. Malcolm X once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Lowering our moral standards in the Middle East will affect the rest of the world. International laws are there to protect everyone. Once laws are proved to hold no accountability, we will see human rights everywhere break down. Violent repressions, more wars. You can already see how US under Trump is becoming increasingly more violent and anti-democratic. I don't want to leave this kind of world for my son and his children and your children. Gaza is a testing ground for what we as a society allow to accept. Do not accept it. It's the responsibility of every person to demand, especially if they are in a position of power. Holding the state of Israel to account does not make you an anti-Semite. The suggestion is absurd, and the ones who claim it to be so are using the death of my 6 million fellow Jews as a cheap propaganda tool for ethnic cleansing. Shame on those who use it as such. Dear Council members, support this motion. Take this significant step in the right direction and be a leading area for justice. Thank you. From May.
Thank you.
Whew. And then, just take a breath, and I've got 3 points that I want to make. Sorry. Okay. First point. Local government is based on local democracy, reflecting local concerns. An official poll last year, significantly more Kiwis supported sanctions on Israel than didn't. I can give you the citation if you want. We wave flags every week, as do more and more across New Zealand, sickened by the double standards of a government that has been so proactive in Ukraine and so tokenistic for Gaza. New Zealanders want action here. We want something to happen, anything. We aren't asking you for sanctions. This is the second point. We aren't asking you for sanctions, just a small change in your procurement policy. One, which your staff report recommends, and government procurement laws support. 3, this is a uniquely doable case. The United Nations list is the only list of its type, specifically made for situations like this. And New Zealand foreign policy is clear on it, and it's backed by every party. Not to act where we can makes us complicit, not only in this case of the settlements, but also in undermining international law and order, which small countries like New Zealand are so dependent on. You're not dealing with anybody on that UN list, none of the companies on that UN list. So, while what we're asking may seem small or even insignificant, or even unnecessary, it's not. Because inaction speaks just as loudly as action. And the myriad small decisions and choices we make as individuals build to what we as a nation will tolerate or stand up against. And there are no good reasons for inaction here. So please stand up for human rights and international law in this small but important way, and reassure Southlanders that we're keeping our own yard clean and our money will never be involved in these horrors. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Have you got anything else? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were
I
going to
can
say
carry on
something
if
as
you
well.
want. I can ad lib.
No,
No, that's it.
That's
About 5
fine.
minutes.
Now, I assume you've read the recommendation to us today.
Yeah.
And are you happy with that, particularly number 4, what the resolution says?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, very good, thank you. Has anybody got any questions of clarification?
Can I make a
Patrick?
clarifying So just noting that Expedia's on Expedia, the booking agency, is on the list. So I just need to make a minor correction to what we said in the paper. I've discovered that we do, in terms of our flight and accommodation booking, we do
Speak
use,
up a little bit, please.
in terms of our flight and accommodation bookings, we do use a party that uses Expedia to do those bookings. Expedia, we believe that the list hasn't been updated since June 2023, and we believe that following the invasion of Gaza, those booking agencies are no longer operating in Gaza. That's what we understand. But we would just request, and when you consider your resolution, that you consider allowing us to continue to do our bookings through Expedia, because that would be quite disruptive to change that.
I understand, yep.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for, no question, Jeremy.
Just in regard, obviously, Airbnb, Booking.com and Expedia, they're not, is it, just to clarify why those companies, is it because they have properties in those regions, or that's why they're technically supporting?
Yeah, so this is focused on the illegal settlements.
Yeah.
So in the West Bank, the illegal Israeli settlements on Palestinian land, and those companies do have properties in those areas.
Okay, and just to clarify what
Yeah.
Patrick said, that it's not necessarily, it's a company that uses Expedia, like we're indirectly, so starting to get fairly well down the, I'm just trying to explain, trying to understand the positions of those companies.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for coming and talking to us today.
Thank you. Let's have a phone call.
Right, so the next item is to discuss this procurement policy alignment with the United Nations Security Council resolution, and we've got 4 recommendations, which I assume you have all read. Is it, anybody got any questions about those or any other part of that report for staff? Okay, so would someone like to move that we are resolved to receive this report, note the United Nations Council's list of organisations, and most importantly, number 4, well, you've got it there to read it out, so I won't read the whole thing out. So would someone like to move that we adopt those 4? I should note that, thank you, Lyndall, seconder, Alistair, thank you. Maybe please say aye.
Aye.
Against, yes, Jeremy.
I was just going to say that this is probably, it's just strengthening our position. We do have some pretty moral obligations where we invest in things, so I've got no problem. So it's actually just tidying things up. If there's any other UN council resolutions, we need to take point. I don't know how we feed all this, but obviously comes from central government, does it? We can get this information.
Sorry, I'd just like to have a procedural conversation with you, Chairman, if you wouldn't mind. The recommendation from staff is that you consider it's not that you do. So I think you can't be adopting point 4 without a discussion. So point 4 is simply to consider it. So there isn't the resolution is not immediately to the statement, it's that you have a conversation.
Well, this is only a recommendation to the council anyway,
And up
so
to
the
the
council
council.
will be discussing it at that next council
If
meeting.
I can, Chairman, my understanding was that recommendation 4 is that we are recommending to council that they consider.
I think you need a discussion consideration before you consider this to council. So this is recommendations for this committee. So I think you need a discussion about that. I think also the matter that Patrick just raised with you, you need to be very clear that the United Nations list from the 30th of June 2023 has not been updated on the United Nations website since the invasion of Gaza. So the matters that we believe are the case which is that section 7E of the resolution 3136 from the Human Rights Council relates to the provision of services and utilities supporting the maintenance and existence of settlements, including transport. Now, we understand, but I have no evidence that those things have changed for those non-Israeli business partners. So I don't have evidence that that is true, but I have a statement saying that it is from some of those entities. So I can't give you advice on that matter. So you just need to consider that. I do think that there may well have been, because there is a provision in the United Nations list that those companies approach the UN to be removed. So I don't know what that status is. I haven't asked that question of the United Nations. So I don't know. So you just need to be aware of all of that in making that recommendation back to council. And what I can say is that insofar as all of the Israeli, from a procurement perspective, none of the Israeli entities are entities this organisation does any business with. So just in terms of how you want to frame your recommendation, you may just need to consider whether what's there is what you want to be saying to council, and whether you want to instruct us to establish some more facts around the matters relating to Expedia and Airbnb.
So what would you recommend? Would you recommend changing point 4, or tell us what you think we need to do to consider this resolution?
Although I'm just giving you information as to what you might want to be saying to council, because once you take this to council, they will adopt your minutes and it will become the council's resolution. So I can't provide you with certainty around whether or not those transport links sold through Expedia and Airbnb have actually been removed, have ceased to Gaza and Palestine apparently, but I don't have that in any certainty. I just have information that is unverified at this stage, and I don't know where those companies' statuses are with the United Nations. But I can, and because this information has only come to us subsequent to the paper being prepared. So if you are going to ask the council to support the United Nations Resolution 2334, which is entirely for you to do, if you do want more information, you may need to instruct the Chief Executive to get that for the council before they adopt the minutes. That would be my only thing that you want to say. Because I don't know whether that's germane to you in this conversation or not. It will be difficult for this council not to use Expedia at this point, given that it is the booking agent for this council.
Yeah. So is it possible for you to provide us with that information for the next council meeting?
Well, I can certainly seek it for the council. So if you want to say that you want to adopt all of that, but you do want that information prior to council's acceptance of the minutes, then that would be fine.
Right, thank you.
That'd be acceptable to the councillors.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Paul?
Thank you, Chair, through you and through Wilma. I do agree that the information that we are basing this decision on, the list, is old. That's not good enough. It's very difficult for us to make any decision based on a list that's pre-event. And it lies with our intent that we endeavour not to, but to base it on a list that's outdated. We may find ourselves in a position where we are procuring from companies that are now on a new list. So we need to have the right relevant information, and we need to at least endeavour that we don't procure from these companies and procure ethically. And I can state that no doubt any council would endeavour to do that, knowingly, not unknowingly, that they may or may not. But it's a moving target at the moment with as we've had statements where some organisations are asking, so effectively lobbying the United Nations to remove their names from a list that is outdated. So we need to rely on the fact that the United Nations have the proof, the relevance, that they actually believe that these companies are no longer involved before they are removed from the list. So it's a moving target.
Well, I think staff are going to get that information. We do have a mover and a seconder for these four recommendations. So if we want to change that, we would need an amendment to the motion. And Wilma suggested that we amend it something along the lines of obtaining that further information about those particular companies, but we need exact words for that. So, and we also need the mover and the seconder to agree to make an amendment. So I think the mover was Jeremy, the mover was Lyndall, Jeremy.
If I have the wording, I'm happy to,
Was I
more than
the mover?
happy, probably.
So
Sorry.
perhaps,
Yeah, I'm not the mover, I don't think.
No.
And I think
Sorry. So just clarify who the mover was. That was Lyndall, and the seconder was Alistair. Thank you.
so can I just make a suggestion that since you are asking council to consider agreeing to support resolution 2394, with the following words to be included in the procurement policy, just in that sentence, you could say, looking to my councillor colleague here on my left to see if she can assist me, perhaps as the mover, that you are seeking for, you are instructing the chief executive to provide advice to council about the status of Expedia on that list.
Just Expedia?
Perhaps you might want to say what have we said in here, the travel and
We could say the booking agencies.
the booking agencies,
Yeah, because
the
they're all of it.
the travel booking agencies on those lists. Yeah.
So are you happy to accept that as an amendment, or somebody has to move an amendment?
Yeah, provide you with further information at the council meeting.
Sorry, which resolution, recommendation
I
is
think
that
that
part
needs
of?
to be number 4, yeah. Or, yep. Can I say though that the list, albeit that it was updated in 2023, is the list that is on the United Nations website. It's not an old list, it is the current list,
Right.
but it has not been updated since prior to the October invasion. So I don't know. What I don't know is whether there has been any conversations between these major agencies or not.
Right, can you read out that they amended the motion, please?
Right. That this committee is asking the CEO to gather further information about the booking agencies on the list before it is presented to the next council meeting.
Okay.
Can we change that to not take up on the list?
Okay,
Because
These booking agencies, and you can run that into the front end, is to consider agreeing to support.
so the booking agencies that you are seeking further information about booking agencies. And this is you want this information before the next council meeting, is that correct?
So maybe
Yeah,
you
the
could
next
run that
council
on to the beginning of the first sentence, Rebecca, so that it
Yeah.
reads to enable council to consider agreeing to support resolution 233.
Chairman, question, will that then give us the opportunity to debate the issue further because we'll have more information coming to us?
Yes, I think you should, and
So,
and I think that will be a matter for the chair to ensure that in looking at the minutes, council has a discussion about them.
because
so
there'll be
that
new
it's deliberate.
information, right?
Yeah, correct.
Thank you.
So we're asking the council to consider supporting the resolution with that extra information. Are you happy with that?
I certainly am.
Are you happy with that, Alistair?
Yes, I am.
Paul?
No, I would honestly think that there should be number 5. We keep number 4, but I would insist that on number 4, the council will endeavour to support the resolution and will not knowingly contract with the list. Okay,
Well, you have to put that as a further amendment.
let's put that as a further amendment.
Is there a seconder for that?
So the council would endeavour to support the union.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? No, seconder, right, we'll go back to the original amendment. Everybody understand that? Jeremy?
Just to clarify, we're just saying, hey, we support this as a committee to go to council. Council needs to adopt the minutes.
Yeah.
Suggest that there's probably going to be support for clarification over information, just to come in as a general sense, just be supported through to council. And that's all we can do today.
Okay, so that's modified point 4. Would you like to vote on all of those together or one at a time?
As the mover, I'm happy if they all go up together.
Thank you. Right, so the recommendation is that the council resolve to do those 4 things, with that 4th one being amended. Any further discussion on that? No. All those in favour of that, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? No. Record that. Right, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for your assistance. Right. We go on to sorry, getting there. Thank you for coming in today. You can stay if you want to, but you don't have to. Confirmation of the minutes. Minutes of the meeting of the 11th of June. Any discussion about those minutes? Any questions of accuracy? Somebody like to move through the record? That's Jeremy moved that, seconded by Lyndall. I think, have we got enough?
Yeah, we've got a quorum, that's right.
At the moment, I think that's enough.
Because Robert counts, right?
Oh, Robert's here.
Robert's not on the committee.
No, he's not on the committee, actually.
He voted against it, councillor.
Is that all of you know is for a quorum?
For a quorum for this
How many have we got
committee.
in this committee?
How many? We've got Phil, it should be Sonny, Phil,
Six,
Nickel.
7, 6.
We've got 4 out of 7 here. Is that all
7 plus.
Plus chairman, yeah.
right? 7 plus.
Well, Nickel makes the 8th person.
There's 6. There's 6 plus nickel.
6.
So 1, 2, 3, 4 is more than half.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on. My maths.
6 plus,
As
sorry.
previous
Yeah.
chair of the finance committee,
Oh, you're all right.
4 is more than half of 6.
Okay, let's carry on then. Did somebody move the minutes around?
Yes. Yeah. we got it.
Seconder?
Yeah.
Lyndall, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
That's carried. Any questions today? No. Any reports? No.
I'm just going to have a quick one.
Report?
Just quick, whether it's associated with, but it was yesterday, I went to a cultivation field day, and I just want to recommend the ES did a really good job presenting them with, in association with the MPI. So just thumbs up to the ES. Need a few more people there, but there were a few contractors and things. Just duly noting that, yeah, they did a good thing, so. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy. Right, going to item 10, which is 10.1 is the financial report. Jody?
Yeah, I'll step through it and Jody, if you're comfortable,
Okay.
any further clarifications to Jody? Look, I'll step through an overview and then welcome any questions. So first part of the report, revenue and expense highlights, and we're now looking at a full year financial result. So our full year plan anticipated a $1.2 million deficit, but we ended the year with a plus $4.2 million surplus. So a positive movement of $5.5 million. We've got bridges in the report, but if I just step through the key areas that resulted in the differences. So our government grants revenue was $1.4 million. And we have to treat that as income as we receive it. So that was one of our material movements. Our income from marine fees and charges and rates penalties was $1.2 million higher than was in the plan. Our expenses primarily associated with reduced employee expenses in the lead up to the restructure, where vacancies were carried and so on, came in $1.6 million less than planned, so it had a favourable impact. Our expenditure on finance costs was $700K favourable to plan because we undertook less capital work than the original plan intended, and our borrowing was subsequently lower. And our investment income was $1.4 million greater than planned, and that was primarily due to unrealised capital gains in our JB Ware investment portfolio. So all of those positive movements were partially offset by $800K of unfavourable expenditure, and that related to us writing down some land that we own, and it related to us having to write back what we originally thought was a capital investment in Iress NextGen, but because the Iress NextGen project is delivered as a software as a service type project, the nature of that expense is it has to be treated as expense. So that was down in capital and expense. So when you take all of those movements into account, that's how we explain our movement and end of year actuals compared to the plan that we started the year with. So that's revenue and expense. In terms of our statement of financial position, then our net equity is $4.3 million higher than we started the year at. So our net equity is $105 million. Our assets are $10.5 million higher than the movement in our assets was positive $10.5 million. That related to cash related to borrowing, grants, and the collection of receivables being $9.8 million higher this year than last year. And a big chunk of that is the $7 million that we borrowed recently. That's partially offset by receivables being $3.3 million lower this year, and there were some anomalies in our receivables last year where we had a positive $1.4 million of settlement money owed to us associated with a construction claim. So, okay. So, so assets $10.5 million higher. Liabilities $6.2 million higher than last year, and that's primarily related to the $7 million of borrowing from LGFA. So when you add the asset increase and subtract the liability increase, you get an increase in equity $4.3 million. So that explains that. Capital expenditure. Our long-term plan had capital expenditure of $4.2 million, of which we actually spent $1.6 million. So in the first instance, we had an underspend of $2.7 million on planned capital. That was relatively evenly spread over the asset classes, but major call-outs are that we had $560K planned for the roof that didn't get spent, and we had to write back the operating expenditure, write back into operating expenditure Iress NextGen, which was $500,000. However, the expenditure that was not in the plan of $2.2 million largely offset the underspend. So we had $2.2 million of capital work that was not in the plan. That related to flood resilience work and climate resilience work. So the net impact was that we underspent our capital relative to plan by $400,000. So if I sum that up, the planned capital underspent by $2.7 million, but some unplanned capital work of $2.2 million largely offset that. Statement of cash flow. So our bank balance moved from overdraft situation in June 2024 of negative 3.1 million to end the year at plus 6.6 million. So an overall movement of 9.7 million. And if I just explain the larger of those movements, so we had a plus $4.3 million increase in receipts from customers. That was largely attributed to the annual inflationary increase for rates, fees and charges. So we increase for inflation every year, and that was largely explained by that. We had plus $5.6 million because less money was spent on infrastructure projects compared to the previous year. We had plus $6.7 million of net debt drawdown this year compared to last year, which ties in with the $7 million from the LGFA. And we had if you take off the negative opening balance of $7.9 million from last year, that explains our plus $9.7 million cash movement year on year. Some final remarks on the debtors and rates, the debtors report. So sundry debtors, these are the debts associated with our fees and charges and non-rates debtors. Our current debt reduced 70% from March to June, and our overdue debt reduced by 38%. And that's in line with our normal seasonal patterns associated with debt recovery. It largely reflects less cruise ship invoicing as we move from March to June, and receiving of overdue cruise ship invoices in the final quarter. We added 22 additional sundry debtors, and those have been handed over to Debt Management Central for active management. Then in terms of the rates debtors, rates debt outstanding is 1.4 million, and that compares favourably to the previous quarter of 1.9 million, and that just reflects ongoing collection efforts in the finance team to collect overdue debt. Any current debt outstanding as of 30 June becomes arrears on 1 July, and we send it to DMC. So DMC is currently managing 338 rates debtors for us, and the majority, 299, are under active management, 8 are in a mortgagee process, and 31 are under legal action or miscellaneous action. So those are kind of the summary notes of the report, and between myself and Jodie, happy to step through any questions.
Right, thank you, Patrick. Alistair.
Patrick, I just, to get my head around that, we underspent 2.4 million in capital, right?
Yeah.
We overspent by 2, as I sort of quickly got it as I came back in, and sorry, I had a phone call. We had a net of 400,000. But what I'm concerned, and could you tell me, the 2.4 is going to come up to be spent next quarter or next year?
The 2.4 is for the capital. So what I'm saying there is, when we started the year, we had a plan and we said we were going to spend $4.2 million on these capital items.
Yes.
As the year progressed, we only spent 2.7 of that $4.2 million. So all of the things that we said we were going to do, we only spent a proportion of what we said we were going to do in our plan. But then, in addition to what we had planned to do, there was unplanned work. So the unplanned work was flood resilience work, and we spent $2.2 million that we didn't have in the plan.
Didn't plan to spend.
Yeah, so that then meant that we ended the year, overall, we'd spent $400,000 less in capital in total than we thought we were going to when we started the year with the plan. In terms of this year, we've got a new capital plan. So some of those items that we haven't spent on will roll into the new year.
So
there'll be other items on the list as well.
So the money that we didn't spend on 2.4, basically, if I've got that right in my mind, is more or less chopped off and we start afresh.
Yes and no. So some of those items are still going on.
Yes.
So they'll be on our capital our capital plan for this year.
Yeah, for this year.
Some of those items may have come in at less than we thought, or we've stopped them. There's usually a reasonable level of continuity. So if we've got capital works that we haven't finished yet, then they could go on to the next year's plan and continue to deliver them.
Carried over more or less. Yeah. Thank you.
Looking at the surplus, 4.3 million from our budget, from anticipated deficit. Can you tell me, just because there's lots of little bits and pieces in there, just in regards when you're looking at rating and our rate take, how much of that is actually taken into the next year as such, or okay, considering might be less debt and things like that, but if we carried on with the same amount of debt loading, I'm looking from a rating point of view, how much did we overrate as such for that financial year?
Yeah.
So we've accepted debt levels and things, so I'm just trying to work out, and because this is, are we going to carry that in as such into the next financial year?
It's a little bit tricky to answer because so some of that becomes retained earnings and we carry it forward. But for example, government grants, $1.4 million that we hadn't planned on, we have to receive that as income, but then we're going to spend it on the flood resilience work that the government grant was for. So it's not going to be carried forward. So there are elements. I guess the equivalent of a corporate, where if you make a profit after tax, if you don't distribute it as a dividend, it goes into your retained earnings and it carries forward. We've got some of that, but we've also got grants revenue that we hadn't anticipated receiving. We've received it as income, and now we will spend it on the capital works that it's been granted for. So there's a little bit of both in the answer.
Yeah, I suppose it's the one that I always like to see is there is grants and that's going to be spent as such, but there will be, we just didn't spend as much money, and our income investments have come up and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of the peg in the sand. That was the information we made our rates call based on, and I'm trying to work out, well, are the rates, have we got more money going into next year? We've accepted there's going to be a certain amount of debt and things that they're technically, it's taking those rates into the next season, next year.
Yeah.
That could offset rate increases too.
Yeah.
That's what if we carry on business as usual.
Yeah, and I guess the other elements are, so we underspent in our employee expenditure, for example. If argument's sake that became a pattern where we continued to do that, then that could be a consideration for the rate level that we strike in future years.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a pattern that will continue because it was very specifically associated with the restructure and slowing down replacement of vacancies and so on. But those sorts of patterns you could take into account when you decide on what the rate increases are each year. But equally, the unrealised capital gains from the investment with JB Were, we haven't realised those yet, so they're not available to us. So it is a bit of there are a number of parts in the answer.
Okay.
Right, Jeremy. Paul, I think you're next.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Patrick, I had a phone call from a ratepayer this week with regards to late payment of rates. Now, this person has got a large number of businesses under an umbrella, and a lot of rates bills come in through post and the likes. And knowingly, the invoice was sent on to one of his businesses who didn't pay it on time, but paid it with a late payment penalty. But the ratepayer was contacted by his bank manager because there was a debt collection against him through council. The concern is, what are our guidelines when it comes to this process? Because it sounds like the employment of collection was quite quick compared to the process, the timeline. And at the end of the day, do the guidelines include giving someone a ring first and foremost before including debt collection?
I can give you a high level sense of how things work. And Jody, feel free to chime in. So essentially, the rates that are due in the current year, they remain current until the end of the financial year, which ends on 30 June. So whilst that debt is current, we will chase it up with reminder letters asking for payment, and we will apply penalties, but we won't send it to debt collection. What then happens is that once the year rolls over and we become 1 July in the subsequent year, that debt is classified as arrears debt and it automatically gets sent to our debt collection agency that we use. So we use that process fairly or very consistently for all rates debt. Do you want to add anything to that, Jay?
It's perfect. So I mean, we do try and contact them multiple times before the end of the year. So there's follow-up letters sent out a set period of times when we are going to put those penalties on, which is all written out in parts of our terms and conditions to do with their rates.
Thank you. The concern was that there was a number of them, the manager's desk, bank manager's desk. So it seemed like something that was different to previous years. That was the implication that I received. But is there a mechanism, so if the rates are paid with penalty and the process has started, that it is reversed quickly? Because that didn't seem to be the case in this situation. So I'd like to talk more about it.
But if you want to give us the details, we're happy to look at it specifically. Yep.
Thank you.
Now, if we go to the capital expenditure, and we go down there, I think the third column down, culvert replacement, 108,000. Last year it was 259. I'm sure that's just not culvert replacement, is it?
What page is that on now?
That's page 30.
Page 30, yeah.
So we list culvert replacement, full year budget 259, spent 108. Jody, have you got any?
But we must have a lot of culverts, do we?
So as part of the LTP process, we've included every year a portion of culvert replacements to go through. So we've only just started that process, and then I know that the catchment team is working on a full list of all replacements to be worked through. So for the this current year, we've budgeted for the 259, and of which we've spent 108. And in this 25-26 year, there's another 250,000 of each year to go towards specifically culvert replacements.
Okay. Righto. Then if I drop one line there, motor vehicles, I guess that figure there is net of the sale of old vehicles, is it? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the culverts, I think I raised this last year. There was an amount regarding culverts last year, and it's not there to correspond with this. So that's the issue. You know, if you look at something and go, wow, it's new, there's no relation to last year. And I think last year, I think it was a figure enough that I made a comment like, what? Or a number of councillors may have made the comment. So it'd be good to have that there as well.
Thank you. Any other questions on that report? No, thank you. Thank you, Patrick and Jody. I thought that the explanation, particularly on page 29 of the unexpected changes, was very good. And so thank you very much for that report. Somebody like to move that we receive that report, please? Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Ludlow. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried.
Is that all right?
Yeah. access to Chinese glasses.
And,
Can't operate without.
if I might, Chair,
Has
just
anybody got a spare of 2 times glasses? Right, let's go on to the business plan and welcome Dom.
Chair.
Thank you for your comprehensive report again. It's very well set out with lots of nice graphics and things. And so if you'd like to go over any highlights, that would be really great. Thanks.
Thank you. This Q4 update also represents our first full year under this current business planning framework. And it was to assess the success of the framework and its ability to help us deliver greater insights into our organisational performance and help direct our prioritisation discussions and share what we do internally and externally. I hope to give the framework a good solid pass mark for the year. There are some things that we'll be looking to improve on 25-26, but as a whole, I think the framework's really delivered some good insights and good discussion around the organisation. So yeah, for that reason, we'll be largely continuing with the same framework for 25-26, except we'll be making some tweaks in terms of the composition and number of work programs and initiatives, and then we'll start to bring in some more of the forward-looking views, and also some more around the challenges and issues that we may be facing in terms of business plan delivery. In terms of overall performance for the year, we started the year with 55 work programs and finished with 55. You might recall in previous updates, I stated that the gut feel for the number of work programs was about right, but we probably had too many initiatives, and that's exactly how the year's played out. Start off with about 300 odd initiatives, 308, ended up with about 302. In terms of our achievement, in terms of those initiatives, we're about, I'll say it's about 70% in terms of ones we've completed or finished in line with our expectations. And the balance in the other 30 is largely made up of instances where we have gone too granular, we've duplicated some initiatives, we've captured them in other reporting, or there's some things that we've legitimately put on hold as a result of organisational prioritisation. So pretty good, but there's still room for us to refine that, which we're going to go through for 25-26. In terms of expenditure, we come in about 98%, sort of touched on planning expenditure for the year. And pleasingly, it was largely in line with the key focus areas that we'd come up with in the business plan report. So the expenditure was happening in the areas that we're wanting it to happen. With Q4, it's also worth noting that there can be some fluctuations in expenditure to do with end of year timing catch up on budgets and end of year adjustments that we may make through the accounting process. An example of that can be seen in catchment operations, where we've had what appears on the face of it, a big overspend happening in that quarter, and that was a result of adjustment, bringing something out of that was in capital. Initially, it's going to be capital, and then it's moved into office. It's also worth noting that where possible, we are managing the budgets on a program level. And so, throughout the year, we may decide to pause, decrease, or increase some expenditure on work programs, as long as we're still managing with the overall total. I touched on that in the last update when we were talking about policy and regional planning. We had slowed down some areas and increased some other areas based on what made sense and based on the priorities at the time. So there's a bit of that happening through the year as well. And finally, you would have noted that I replaced the upcoming section in this report with a previous section, and that's to being an end of quarter, end of financial year report. You tend to forget all of the things that have happened in the previous 3 quarters, and so I brought those back through sort of to reshare with council and with the wider organisation that there's actually been a lot achieved throughout the year, and you do tend to forget some of that. So I consciously brought those through just to re-highlight some of the successes and achievements for the organisation across the year. So that's all I was going to update on that report, and take any questions.
Thank you. Right. Do we have any questions? I've got 2,
There's a heap of info.
Yeah, it's going to get richer too.
I've already talked to Patrick about some of these, but on page 44, there's a list of work programs. The first one, the consent program, is only 67% utilised. Could you explain that and the reason for that not being fully utilised?
Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons for that, for the consent program. And for consents, is one of the areas where there is normally income associated with their expenditure. So there's a cost recovery element associated with some of the planned expenditure we may have in that area. And so this report only focuses on expenditure. But if I was to include income, we would see a lower than planned income associated with cost recoveries, which is sort of matched by a lower than planned expenditure in terms of consultants and contractors. So there's two sides to that view for consents.
Something a bit hard to predict.
Yeah. So I can't speak to the assumption in terms of the cost recovery, but yeah, whether that income is lower than expected and the expenditure is down within the account.
Thank you. And another one on that page is about the blood fallout facility. Yesterday or the day before, I got a report sent to me via Objective that was done by Boffa end of last year.
Yep.
It recommended quite strongly, I thought, that we really do need to fix the situation there. And I see we've only spent 34% of our budget. So are we going to get this fixed soon or not?
So in terms of the budget, which I can probably speak to, and then in terms of what's going forward, I may need to look for some input from the floor, but the budget was made up of two parts for the blood fallout. The first part involved a investigation or needs analysis assessment, and that was the Boffa report. The second part and the big chunk of the budget, around 65 grand of it, was in relation to detailed designs for a haul-out facility, which we would only go to if we made a decision on what the solution was going to be. And so, as far as I'm aware, the project's still pending, sort of final decision in terms of the direction it's going to go, post the Boffa report. And so that is why we haven't spent that remaining budget. For 25-26, budget has been carried over for the blood fallout, so we're still planning to do some work on there. But
what are the roadblocks there?
in terms of progressing it,
Are there roadblocks? I'm assuming there are, because we've been talking about it for ages and we haven't got it fixed yet.
yeah, I'll just check if any latest
Yeah,
information.
we've reopened conversations with ICC and with Greater South, and we're about to have a meeting with Southport. There's a number of issues in there. That report we've just recently made it more widely available, including the Fiordland Marine Guardians. Location, cost are all roadblocks, but we are going to clarify that. The design parameters we've got give us an estimate of about 4 to 8 million. So we need to narrow that down, because I think the 8 million is for too big a boats. You're also aware in that report, you'll see the lift out that Southport run at the moment. It's only got another 10 years life on it. So that's got to be part of it. Apparently Southport have done a bit of idea around where it could be or couldn't be located. So we are pulling all those parties together so that we can get a better solution. The remaining money, we're hoping then we will be able to get a design report that would give us a better idea about what it's going to be likely to cost. Interesting, Kanoa have funded them up north. And so we're also opening conversations with what I call Mark Patterson too. We did raise it when the minister was down, probably here a month or 4 weeks ago, whenever he was down. So we are starting to work on those packages. I would imagine we may get a clearer picture within or this side of Christmas about that idea, and so could then feed into future plans depending on what role he is. I'm not sure. I think it's essential for us to do our business, but I'm not sure we're the right people to own and operate it. But again, there may be opportunities for private-public partnerships. There may be all sorts of things, and that's what I think the rest of that money would be good to just get a better plan and bring that back up to council.
Thank you, Dave. So I think there's a report to policy and strategy about marine biosecurity, and that talks about working in with others, so that's all part of the plan. Thank you. Paul, did you have one?
Thank you, Malcolm, and just thank you, David, just in noting, is there any chance if staff are to talk that they come up to the
Right.
table, please? It's just, we are on a live stream meeting.
Yeah.
And it would be good procedure.
All right, thank you. I thought Dave has got a nice loud voice, no trouble hearing him, so.
No, it wasn't that, it was just that we are live streamed. So.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
Sorry about that, I didn't know the protocol, but I
No,
can
no, I
usually
just-
come up when I'm answering questions.
Just so that they can see you on the computer there, Dave. Right, thank you, that. Jeremy.
I just have one question regarding that haul out facility. We have talked about the 400 odd K that we gave to another council in regards to the discussion. I know David knows what we're talking about. Is that agreement, or we do know that, could that come to us to have a look where that money went? I know I did ask the question a while
The
back.
agreement's really clear, and you've got to recognise the background of the agreement. When you did it, there was legal proceedings ongoing. It has got a single clause in there as part of clearing up the whole thing that ES would give ICC $400,000 in 2 instalments of $200,000, and you've paid them both. It is not linked to any work or to anything. It is just part of the agreement that you would pay. Southport also paid ICC. My understanding is that money did go into building the boat ramp that went in, and that actually blew out a budget as well, but they didn't, there was nothing in the agreement for them to come. If a bluff haul out is, that agreement also, which is still standing, it's a 3-way agreement between ourselves, Southport and ICC, also says if a haul out is constructed, agreed to be constructed, ES would meet the cost of that, and that was part of that agreement. I would say let's have a look at that as part of our business plan as we go forward. I think there will be other partners that might be better placed to fund some of that, but doesn't mean that we can't agree. But basically, that agreement you did sign, you've paid, you've met all your obligations. Apart, there is one more, that if ICC doesn't earn enough money from rent fees for the boat, and I believe they're not, they can come back and actually ask us for a one-off $8,000 payment. So they've not come back as far as I know, but that is in that agreement, and that agreement's live.
Interesting agreement.
So just to reiterate, clarify, was that signed off by the council or by management?
The signature on the bottom, I don't know whether it went to
I know there
council
was
at
a
the time.
number.
The signature on the bottom is the chief executive, so it's a binding agreement, I believe.
I'm just looking at
And it has been
that.
through the legal process. If you want to relitigate it, you can, but I wouldn't be recommending it. I think the relationship, we've got to move forward and find a solution to where we're going forward. I, again, wasn't here in 2019 when it was signed and all the rest of it, so.
So you'll be able to clarify who signed that off and that it did come past the
Clarify,
council.
signed off by the chief executive.
But did it come over the council table?
I don't know.
That's what I'm asking. I know there was a number, but I'm just surprised that it's the way it is. So, I've other questions in regards to that.
Well, yes, is that something you'd like to follow up, Dave?
Well, I mean, I asked about it and it's come up that we have got this 400, but now it's very much, it was actually for nothing. It was about legal, for sort out some legal issues. But the reality is, I'm just trying to refresh my memory. My memory must be getting a bit old because I don't think that's what I thought it was for. So I'm stand to be corrected and proven wrong. But I'd say if we've got the information, can we please see it? That's all I'm asking as a council.
So you'd like a report to council on that agreement?
No, I don't know whether it needs to be reported.
So, yeah, tell me what you'd like.
Well, I think all you're asking for is a
Where
record.
in the minutes, the council meeting, we signed that off. That's what I know.
Right.
That it came across us.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking. That's as simple as that.
Is that all right, Dave?
And if it didn't?
Doesn't matter, we'll deal with it then. Okay.
So you're looking for,
Right, I think that's action point.
I presume it's an action point for secretary, meeting secretary to look through the minutes, see whether it was an item. It was signed in 2019. I can find the exact date somewhere. But yeah, I'm sorry. And certainly Rob Phillips might be able to help when he comes back on board. He signed it, so he may know a little bit more about the history of it.
Right, thank you, Dave. Yes, Paul?
Thank you. Just through that, the comments that I've heard, can I just get a wee bit of clarity, so if we look at a haul out facility, he's responsible for building the haul out facility.
That's in the agreement at the moment.
That's
Any
in the agreement.
agreement's renegotiable though.
So there was also the mention of the business plan, when we look at something like that. But then I noted that you did say that if ICC don't collect enough fees, ramp fees, then they will come to us for. So
Yeah, they can,
so
that's
I
part
need-
of the agreement.
So I just needed clarity here on this business pre-business plan thing. If we're expected to pay and build it, are we not going to collect any fees on
That's
it? So that's a pretty loose.
We started the conversation with a little bit of the surplus that's still there for the project. That's the next part of the project. And we will actually need to look at what is the business case going forward, what are the different models you can look at, what are the options, and then we try and optimise those. So look, I think we're asking questions in a whole range of probabilities. Let's do a little bit more work, and we have got some budget to support us in that, because that scenario that you're talking about may not be there. We may be recommending, or the business case may recommend different scenarios.
Lyndall's got a question on that.
Yeah, just a comment regarding councillor Evans' question. My understanding is that the boat ramp, which is primarily the agreement from 2019, is a slightly separate issue to the bigger conversation of the haul out facility. So the lack of collection of rates from the boat ramp potentially is a separate thing to the haul out facility. So
that's why I was asking for some clarity.
yeah, so they're kind of separate
Absolutely
conversations,
separate,
right?
yeah.
So so if we build the haul out facility and it doesn't make any money, that's hypothetically, that's
not in the
separate.
business plan.
That's separate to the $8,000 that City Council might come to us for the boat rent, because it's different.
Now the haul out facility is going to have a wider range of beneficiaries as well,
Yes.
because aquaculture is coming in. There's a number of new aquacultural things. We're just looking at a plan change for some of that. So basically, I think the situation in 2019 and the situation in 2025 is quite different, or potentially quite different, and also certainly got a different focus from the government around it will not only be supporting tourism and the biodiversity of Fiordland, it will be a very essential facility to support aquaculture as well. So I think we've got a different business environment at the moment. And that's why it's important we do some more work around that. But yes, that's purely the clause, and look, I can't quote it exactly, says that if the amount that they get from the fees is not enough to cover operating costs, and it is specific about operating costs, not about capital and operating and paying back your capital costs. So operating costs, they can, if they wish, come back to ourselves in Southport and ask for a one-off $8,000. Now, where $8,000 came from, I haven't got a clue, but it may take them too much work to unpick and prove what their operating costs are versus they haven't made that request to us, but I think it's worthwhile you've been aware of it.
Right, thank you. Well, had a pretty good discussion about that. I think we're running a bit behind time, so Dave's going to provide a report on the background of that, and then we'll be able to discuss it again. So I do want to move on to the next item, unless it's absolutely essential. You ask your question, Alistair?
Two things, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to back you up on the basis of requesting where the haul out facility is. 3 years ago, we came in and tried to keep pushing it. It needs to actually happen, and I don't think we're too much further here. The other question I'd like is the wetlands. We've only spent 15% of our projected budget. The budget was only 123,000. What's going on there? Because it's quite important that we get these things happening.
So the
You can do it now.
Yeah, the wetlands budget, that was specifically, there was a mixture of staff time and external budget. So it's approximately 100 grand external budget put there for that piece of work. That was being led at that time by Ali Mead. And then once she left, that work sort of kind of got paused and got picked up through some other bits and pieces of work that are happening around the organisation. So it was a combination of not quite proceeding to incur those external costs associated with that particular budget, but the work was being picked up in other parts, other projects.
But I see it as being tremendously important to water quality in Southland.
Yep, and so that work is still going on. It's just not going on in that particular line item.
Thank you.
Right, would someone like to move that we resolve to receive the business plan update report, Jeremy?
I've asked a couple of weak questions on Patrick,
Oh,
so,
yes, well,
but I'm happy to move it.
We'll run quite a
No,
lot.
no, I'm happy to move it. I've said I'll ask it's gonna.
Moved by Jeremy, seconded by Paul. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Right, item 10.3, the long-term activity progress report. Marcus?
Got it, councillors. Thanks very much. Just before I jump into the report, I just want to note a couple of changes or errors in the cover report. First one is on the title. It says long-term plan 21 to 34. It should actually be long-term plan 24-34. And similarly in the recommendation to receive the long-term plan 24 to 34. So there's been an error in those parts. Furthermore, down in the second row of bullet points, the actual number of measures isn't accurately reflected. It's actually healthy environment has 13 measures, of which 2 were achieved. Safe and resilient communities had 11, 2 of which were not achieved, and the thriving region had 10.
10 achieves.
10 overall, all not achieved, which add up to 34. So we've got 34 measures in total.
Right, thank you.
So those numbers are 13, 11 and 10, those 3 different categories.
Get those corrected.
So, yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity to present this. So this is our report based on the measurements in our long-term plan, our commitment to the community as to what we were going to achieve for the financial year, which is just finished. So Environment Southland has 34 measures, and overall this year we've achieved 76% of those measures. The performance for 23-24 financial year was 63%, so we have had a substantial increase in terms of what we achieved. And the year prior, 22 to 23 financial year was 62%. So yeah, this year we're at 76% for the financial year. So I've appended for the committee a breakdown of the measures and the levels of service of the current long-term plan, 24 to 25 financial year. And also in the shaded section directly below each of those measures is the previous year's results where there was a comparable measure. So the way it's sort of broken out, you can sort of track what we did this year versus what we did last year and some comparisons. So a few, I guess, commentary highlight points of the report are that there was a few regulatory changes that occurred during the year. So for example, measure 1 on the page number 50 there, it relates to make operative targeted amendments to the regional policy statement, regional coastal plan and water and land plan. So there's been legislative changes in government that have prevented us from undertaking those activities. And henceforth, the measure has not been met. Similarly, or conversely, I should say, target number 2, for example, resource consents process this financial year, target was 99%, and we achieved 99%. So there's some great results in this performance report as well. what I would like to highlight to the committee is that target number 10 on page 55. The measure is that the percentage of land management request for service, oh no, it's actually, yeah, we didn't quite achieve that one. And number 15 was one we specifically need to talk about because the measure in the target in the long-term plan is not actually accurate. There's a typo in that. So I'll talk you through that now and the consequences of that. So for target number 15, the measure is report on environment Southland's natural hazards, climate change adaptation science and modelling program. So for the 24-25 financial year, we needed to produce an annual report by 30th of September 2024, which is 3 months into that reporting period. So we couldn't have done a full year's worth of annual report within 3 months because there's still 9 months to run. So effectively, the result for that performance measure target 15 is not met because we haven't achieved the timing because there's an error in the long-term plan which we can't amend without going through an annual plan process. So the work has been done and will be reported in time for achieving it. This current financial year that we're in now, but year past we haven't achieved that target. And similarly, measure 20 is in the same situation with the reporting date being an annual report submitted to council by the 30th of September 2024, being 3 months into that financial year and then reporting period. Unable to do a annual report in that time frame based on only being 3 months into that reporting period. So just want to highlight those to the committee, just to, I guess, identify that there's an error in the long-term plan, and we'll be addressing it with auditors. They're on site this week and working forward to make sure there's a note in our annual report that reflects the reasons why we did not achieve those two targets. Other than that, happy for any questions.
Thank you, Marcus. Yes, I noticed that quite a few of the red ones are because of the changes to government policy. That's really prevented us from doing what we plan to do. So that's not anything we have any control over. Are there any questions? No? Well, thank you very much. Oh, there's one.
Sorry. I'll just make sure I'm actually asking the right question, sorry. I'm just looking at the target 18.2 from 2023-24, so it's under target 33 from this year, page 69.
So what page is that?
69. And the mechanism for youth engagement would be established by 30th of June 2023. So that is reflected in 2024-25. Developing a proposal for new youth engagement, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And we've achieved that, right?
Correct.
But I'm not sure I'm fully aware that we have a Southland Youth Focus Network. What is that?
I'm not entirely sure, sorry. That was something I'm not quite entirely across that detail, but I can get a result and bring that back to you.
Yeah, I'd be interested because I'm, you know, it's a particular interest of mine, as you know, and I'm not sure I'm aware of how that works. So perhaps I can come back to you.
Yes, I'll provide some details to you directly on that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Right. Somebody like to move that we receive the report. Jeremy, seconded by Paul. Thank you. All those in favour? Aye. Aye. That's carried. Thank you very much, Marcus. Right, the next item is the information systems technology and management update. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Hope everybody is well. Good job. Very pleased to be able to present our end of year 2 for our information technology strategy and this report to F&P. This now combines the information management report as well as information management as part of the new information and technology services division team. So we've got a combined report. Really proud to be able to say that all of our targets were green except for one, which was totally out of our control. And the one that wasn't was on the decommissioning of some of those legacy servers that we have, you know, as you're aware, we've been trying to decommission some of them for a very long time. We're down to about the last 9. They have been segregated off the network, as in they have no access to the internet. So, you know, from a cybersecurity risk, we've mitigated the risk of those old servers as much as what we possibly can. The legacy systems that are on there are getting less reliant, and let's go for 30th of June 26 to have all of that legacy stuff gone. Really proud of the team that they managed to achieve a target that was really a stretch for them, and that was the rollout of all the Windows 10 devices out to Windows 11, including all councillors, by that 30th of June. That needed to be done by October, so we well and you know, from a technical point of view, we well and truly achieved that. We've been reporting through the CE's reports, the South Maps that has developed and ready to go live, just waiting for the comms pieces to be joined up with that. I'm keen to get a presentation to the executive and to councillors, so hopefully we can get that in a workshop of some sort before in September before it goes live. The functionality is new and improved and more modern than what the current beacon is. The information has been enhanced, and hopefully the end users and consumers will find it a lot more useful. The pain of change, you know, as we discovered through the environmental data portal when it went live, you know, not everybody likes change, so we will navigate through that. Cybersecurity audit, we have been working through the management report for that, and that will be going up to, the findings of that will go up to risk and assurance in September. And another key area I'm really proud to be able to, because it was a area of concern, was around the server patching and the workstation patching. So that now has got a really robust program around it, and proud of what the team has done with that. Information management, all statuses were green. We're underway with an objective upgrade to be on the latest version. That's currently in test. And from an end user point of view, it does make us on the latest version. We're working through Doc Assembler, which is what prepares all the agendas and actions and minutes, and trying to see what enhancements we can do in that space. So that may have some change for you as councillors receiving agendas in the future, but we'll keep you up to date before any change happens. And we've introduced, you know, new tools for scanning documents to improve that document processing project. Under the risks and mitigations, the Irish Next Gen program is continuing. There has been that build delay for that Datacom has got the build delay. ORC has been delayed in their pilot implementation, but it is under amber to lightning to green status at the moment, so it appears to be on track. And So the next steps are looking at obviously refreshing or combining, for a start, the information management and the technology strategies together, then to refresh what that roadmap looks like. That's my highlights.
Thank you,
Any
Jane.
questions?
Yes, it's very good to see these South maps are being completed, and I'll be very interested in a workshop we can have on that so that we can be familiar with it, we can tell other people about it.
Yeah.
That's very good. I had a question, and it might be me, about Objective Connect. I often get multiple copies of agendas, more than one. Is there a reason for that? Is that because the agenda is updated and we get a new one, or is that something in the system? I don't know if other people get that or not, but I certainly like the S&P committee agenda through Objective. I've had 2 of those. Same thing. It's the same thing. I've checked through them and it says it's the same thing.
I will, as an operation level piece of information, I'm not sure, so I will follow that through with the EAs and see what's happening in that space.
Right.
And perhaps I need to look at what you're saying as well, because is it because you get notifications, so is it the multiple notifications, or is it actually the agenda? But you could be right, it's been updated and so you get another.
Yeah, lots of people get that.
Yeah, look, I asked the question, it seemed when anybody went in and had a look or
You get
hang up, it
notifications?
was, there seemed to be duplications of things. And whenever it comes back, I'm actually, has someone changed the agenda?
Oh, okay.
Has been altered or anything, and
Which is what it should be.
yeah, but
Yes, if
doesn't
it's been
seem to,
changed, yes.
and
but
or-
if it hasn't. I'll follow that
Seems to
through
be.
with the EAs.
Thank you, Jane. Councillor Ludlow.
Thank you. Just on that, if it's an update, it would be really good if the notification highlighted that it was an update, rather than just sending us another notification, because that might help with some of the confusion.
Yeah.
But my question actually is, the legacy servers are actually physical things, right?
The virtual physical things. So they are a server. So they've got applications on them, but they're in our virtual environment.
But there's a physical thing that we have to dispose of at some point, or is it just all in the ether and we don't have to worry about e-waste? Is my question.
Oh, so so our environment is totally virtual.
Right.
So we have some compute power in our server room down the corridor.
Yeah.
That is the bot, and I'm going like that because it's 6 nodes that make it up.
Yeah.
So it is physical.
Right.
But the servers that are on it are virtual. So when we power off the server, we no longer have it. So it's a matter of powering it off. And so we have a flex on demand arrangement with our environment so that when we power something off, it saves us money. As in, we don't use as much compute and memory.
So we don't have physical boxes to get rid of.
No.
Just making that clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Except for every 5 years, because it is a physical thing we replace every 5 years.
I correct me if I'm wrong, Jane, but just clarify, so there is physical server and storage hardware.
Yes.
To decommission and remove, to answer your question.
At the end of the 5-year lease. Yes. But it is leased and it goes back to the leasing company. So they then usually on-sell those assets. So the length of the life of the asset is extended for somebody who doesn't need as up-to-date hardware then gets it.
Just thinking about our
So from the e-waste, it doesn't go to landfill.
climate change emissions.
Yes.
Reporting and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yes, fine, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Right, thank you very much. Thank you, Jane. Would somebody like to move that report? Paul, and seconded by Councillor Gibson. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Right, 10.5 is the property report. Patrick, take us through that, please.
So we've drafted this paper as a follow-up on the action that came up in the last Finance and Performance Committee And papers just has the intention of giving the committee a high level understanding of the property we own and the return that it generates. It's important to note, I think, when I put the tables together, I cross-referenced two data sets. And there are some data quality or reliability issues in our data sets. So I feel the paper is directionally accurate, but I just want you to know that the quality of the data is not 100% that underpins the reporting. What we are going to do, we'll commission a piece of work to improve the quality of our land data. I'm particularly keen to ensure that any land data that we have in our financial systems is accurate. So we will do a piece of work to make sure that our land data is as accurate as possible. But look, headline numbers, we own circa 4,500 hectares of land. That land has a QV valuation of circa $60 million. And after accounting for the costs of maintaining our leased land and then considering the income it generates, we achieve a return of circa 1% per annum on the QV value of our land. So clearly we don't own the land for the purpose of generating financial returns, but it's worth being aware that the returns that we do get from the land that we have are very low. When you look at the tables, you'll see that some of our more common land uses are around stock finishing, dairying and storing livestock. And I've also included a table that cuts the data set to show you what catchment land we own is located in, because I thought you may find that of interest. And then we've posed some initial very high level questions in the paper, and we welcome a more wholesome conversation about our land and any subsequent actions that may come out of that.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, this is a start for further discussion. I'm sure that some councillors will be very interested in this. Jeremy, did you have a question?
Just gonna let someone else. Let's do it first.
I'm sure I saw your.
I'm happy to go first because there's a simple rule here. If we've got $60 million worth of land leased, we should have an income of 1.8. Now, either the lease land price is wrong or the QV value is wrong. Do you get what I mean? Because generally a lease value is 3% of the capital value. Now, the next thing that I look when I see this, I go through here and we've got vacant land that has a cost of gross income of -35 and sum of costs of 19, and it still has a 1% return. I don't know how the hell that all works, but, the thing is, I think, Patrick, we've got to go right back and look at all this land and work out what's going on, because the last time I put forward the fact that the lease should be 3% of the capital value, I was told that this land is sub-operational, or in other words. But then if it's still got a QV value of 60, it's not that. So we've got to go back and have a look at the whole thing and make sure that we are getting a return. I can't understand that we've got a gross in of 1.381 million and we've got expenses of 898,581. It just doesn't compute at all. So, and then that gives you the net sum of 483,000, which it converts then back to somewhere about the 1%. We've got to get our figures right before we start.
Do you want me to respond?
Yes, yeah.
So look, that income is taken straight out of the ledger.
That's right.
So,
Yep.
So that $1.4 million of income is what we recorded against.
Happy with that. Yep.
So look, I don't have the context in terms of the 3% that you're referring to, but if you take the income out of the ledger associated with the lands that we've got, if you take the expenditure that's been coded to that land in the ledger, you're then left with a net income of the 483,000 you see in the table. And if you express that as a percentage of the QV valuation of that land, you get 1%. So
Yeah, no,
that's-
I understand the mathematics of it, but I don't understand that there's bits of it that aren't correct. Now, you have a go, Jeremy.
This will be an exclusive GST and well, yeah, it's all good. I'm pleased, like at the end of the day, this is I'm just pleased that we've got valuations and things like that, but the costs aren't, because the reality is we're only allowed to, for maintenance, spend up to 25% of our gross income. That is policy. And that would only equate to 345,000. So there's 553,000 of extra costs in there. I know we put overheads and depreciation and bits and pieces into there, but I'm just going to ask, is the shovel-ready money going out? Shovel-ready payments? Because we've got 450,000. That was 400,000. The number's not right. If we can look at that 898 and work out where that's come from.
Yeah.
Because so the return, look, the return's low anyway, but it's not necessarily there as a
It shouldn't be
potential.
that low. If
Yeah.
the QV.
Please.
The reality is that you go back, I'm pleased to see the gross there when we started this journey about 7 years ago. Yeah, you wouldn't want to look at returns then. You know, there should be $1 million in money going back into that was my objective when we looked at all the leases. We took all the good stewardship discounts off, and it's good to see that, although we haven't been getting the information to see where it's progressing and where we're at with leases, which is what we need to do now.
Yeah.
But all the question is saying, can we just look at that 998? It may be the money's been used in other parts of our business, rather than, if that is the cost, then we've got some serious problems within management of the land. It's gone way outside. I can't see them spending that money on that land.
So
I just want us to focus on what happens next. We could have a long discussion about all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's really important that we focus on resolving the questions that you have. And that's what's proposed on page 87 to undertake further work so that we do have robust records of our land and land users and the income and the expenses and everything like that.
can I?
So I would, Alistair, if you have something else to say before we go on, you're welcome to do that.
Yep. I just did a quick calculation, and my calculations are real simple. I divided the 598 hectares that are released for dairying by the 153,000, that's the gross income, and I get a net of $256 a hectare, and I divide that by 2.471, it's about $100, $103 an acre. Dairy leases are $400 to $500. What's
Okay.
going on?
Okay. Now we're going to look at all that stuff. So Patrick, can you give us some specific recommendations of what you think we need to do, taking into account the concerns that the councillors have brought up?
Sure. So I think just to your point, Jeremy, about the 898,000. So what I propose that we do is we provide you with some further reporting and break down the 898,000. So if I understood the conversation correctly, that the fact that we've spent $898,000 against these properties with this level of income associated with it appears to be driving us spending more than we should be according to policy. So I think we should drill into that. We do have the records available to us to drill in. So I propose the first action is that we give you more specifics about the properties that sit underneath this table, the expenditure against those properties and why that appears to be proportionally a high proportion of the income that we derive from the properties. So that's the first action. I think the second action, Alistair, I think what you're signalling is if we were to benchmark the income we would expect relative to value of the properties, I think you're calling out that the income we're getting is underperforming. So we can also take a look at that. So I think the second action is that we look at the gross income relative to property value and compare to available benchmarks to give you a sense of that.
Just to support that, Patrick, if I take that dairying thing and I put the lease at $350 an acre, we should have an income of 517 off that area. We've only got an income of 153. So we've got to sort of get that all sorted.
Right. And now there are a number of other things that you recommend that we do in there. I'm just wondering how comfortable you would be, Patrick, if you involved, say, Alistair and Jeremy in this process. You would obviously have to do it, but rather than waiting to come back to the committee, you might like to consult with them as part of that process. Is that something you'd be comfortable with?
Can I comment on that? Thanks.
Kind of a subcommittee, I'm suggesting.
Yeah, so two things, councillors. First of all, the whole matter of getting better performance information to you has been, a primary focus for myself and for the executive, which is what we've been doing with the business planning, and again, getting these kind of reports to you, so there's information. This is essential to come to this committee because this is about looking at the performance of the organisation. So the discussion around the relative level of income versus expenditure is absolutely opposite. But at the same time, we also established an investment committee in this financial year, and it's specifically with the purpose of looking at all of the investment portfolio, including our lands. So there is actually, the committee exists to look at how to do exactly what Councillor Gibson is saying needs to happen. So we don't need to set up another subcommittee on that matter. That is actually the purpose of the investment committee. So what Patrick has brought to the table is the information as we understand it. So you've got a report. And so, yes, the report is showing information that, we are, as a percentage of QB valuation, only returning 1%. There are matters in there from a performance perspective that we need to look at, which is exactly as you're identifying, which is where is the expenditure relative to those properties coming from, and how do we actually manage that in relation to whether it's been coded correctly or whether in fact we should be doing work in a different way. That's a performance management issue. And then there's an investment management issue, which is what should our expectations be of returns from those properties and how do we maximise it. And that's the investment committee, which is meeting this afternoon's responsibility.
Yeah, this report, I think it's the same report as going to the investment committee, isn't it? Right, so we just want to see how we're going to progress this here. Do we say that it's really the responsibility of the investment committee, and pass it over to them?
Two different issues, Chair, is what I'm saying. One is the expenditure relative to the outcome, and then so how are we managing this is the performance matter. So what is it that we are doing around the management of those properties and what's being coded to them in the financials. So we need to be very clear about that. So that's where Patrick's gone through all of this and pulled this out. But the investment committee, which should be looking at what the actual return should be, Patrick, of course, leads both those committees as from an officer perspective, so she'll be able to inform both of those. So you have the structure in place, is what I'm saying, for both conversations. Here in terms of performance, investment committee in terms of how we should maximise that investment. And I think by hearing the conversation here, both of those are matters for us to be dealing with as an organisation. So Councillor Gibson saying under investment, the investment performance is not great. Is it an expenditure issue? Is it an income issue? Is it an investment issue? Both of them need to be addressed.
Thank you. It's not clear in my own mind about the distinction between the roles of the investment committee and this committee. So what is it that this committee should be doing in relation to this report?
So this committee will be looking for a report that demonstrates that we are managing those properties as well as we should be. The question of whether we have actually invested that those properties are returning an investment in the way that we manage, and that should be a recommendation back to council from the investment committee. So if we have under-leased them or we're not getting the kind of return on them, but if we're actually also then coding expenditure against those properties that is inappropriate or is too high, then that's a performance matter. So there are both matters there. This also is an issue for you to discuss for those of you who are going to be part of the incoming council, as the investment committee evolves its program of work. How those two committees work together, I think, is still a matter for ongoing conversation. But performance is what this is. You're looking back at the performance of the organisation forward as to how it does its work well. The investment committee is looking at how to, get the maximum investment value from the assets that we own, of which our land is a part. So it may well be that we're actually undercharging for the leases. I don't know if that's the case, but we need to investigate that. We need to look at what the expectations are, what's driving that. Might be a performance issue, it might be the way that we're actually associating expenditure and the way we're managing it. So both of those are up for performance. So we will be getting a discussion at the investment committee about exactly that, I would think, this afternoon too.
So the recommendation number 2 says consider, again, using that word consider, how the information contained in this report should influence future work on our land. With respect, it's a little bit vague. I'd like it to be a bit more directive than that. So I'm looking for an assistance in that area. Paul, you had a question before.
Oh, yeah, just the points raised by Alistair and in relation to performance and everything could just be added to the discussion in the next steps on page 87. Effectively, it's what we're moving towards. We need more information. We need it to be noted and diarised, and we need to work towards something, not now, but discussions and next steps, looking to return.
So you're saying,
one of those points was, can we, if we were looking for accommodation in Te Ao now, if we utilise both properties, there's discussions and next steps, just the same as what Councillor Gibson is raising. We need to have all of this information.
so you're saying the points then on page 87 and going over to 88, the bullet points there, we're directing staff to do further work on that and get us answers or proposals in relation to all those points. Lyndall?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
All right.
Patrick's actually identified in those bullet points the possible next steps. Perhaps the only thing we might want to consider is whether there's too many bullet points there. But certainly the first bullet point is top priority for me because we need some sound data. But yes, in short, all of those.
Yeah, that relates to what?
Are the next steps as identified by his learned self, who knows far more about this than I do.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Can I, looking at this graph and about providing data, there's only QB valuation, the hectares I agree with here. I don't know how we've got these numbers anyway, and no doubt Patrick will bring them in. They don't make sense to me because I have asked over even the last year around the lease land about the 25%. I've seen the numbers starting to produce them. So we'll get that clarified. Definitely, please use certain councillors around this table that have spent a lot of time on this, and have got a lot of understanding of land use, what it is, the dairy land. Like a farmer built a bridge across a river to get to the land. That's how valuable it was. So there's all these. I spent a lot of time on this, and I can answer a lot of those questions. And I've said, use us. Free time. Don't pay someone to do this stuff, please. So annoying when you said you didn't. There's indications of not having the. You might have to get external help. Come to us first, please. Because there is a lot of information. I have information working with Doug through those leases. The information's in this building around the areas and bits and pieces and what it's used for. And I've got it in, I've received it as well as we work through those leases. So
if I can just respond quickly, the reference to using somebody is purely about having some capacity to do the tidy up work. It's not about getting expertise in around these land records. We just simply have a finance team that doesn't have capacity to do the tidy up work without us bringing in some support to do that, and it's just a short-term, low-cost piece of work to do that. So that's kind of my first point. The second point is very happy to, as we go through and produce the additional information that you've asked for, put draft copies of that across to you for feedback. I think there's little value in working it all up and then getting a series of additional questions when we bring it back. So if we draft it and share drafts with you on the way to completing it, then you'll understand the data that's in there. And you'll be able to guide us if that's what's needed before we finalise the report.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, I'm suggesting that we alter item 2 here to change it and say, ask the staff to undertake the action set out in the bullet points on page 87 and 88 of this report, instead of what is there at the moment in number 2. Would that be satisfactory?
Yes. Yes. I
All
would
right.
second that.
Thank you. All right. So the recommendation now is to receive this report and ask the staff to undertake the action set out in the bullet points on page 87 and 88 of this report.
There were just those two matters that we were also asking to investigate earlier around giving you further clarity on the costs associated with the income.
Right. I think that would be covered by this, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I think that's an additional action that we just need to capture.
Can you give me some words for that then?
You do that.
Okay, so request staff to clarify the $898,000 of expenditure against these leased properties and why this apparently looks higher than it should do relative to the income from these properties.
Industry income. Yeah, the income.
Wanted to say that again, Patrick, a bit more slowly.
So request staff to further investigate the $898,000 of expenditure against the properties that generated an income of $1.4 million and clarify why this appears to be lower than what would be expected, higher than what would be expected, sorry.
No cost.
Okay, so now we've got 3 points to receive the report. We want to take the action set out in the bullet points and to do that financial. So somebody like to move those
Hang on,
3.
before you go there, can I, sir?
Yes.
The other thing that I see is really important to this, and I've sometimes got in a bit of bother by going direct to staff, or staff are coming direct to me about the leases. The leases are not modern and they need to be updated. And if we just use a standard Federated Farmers lease, which I think is about $85, get them all updated, get them on the right footing as we go forward. And then everybody understands what a lease is really about.
Right,
I don't know if that's your area, Patrick, I'm not sure.
There's certainly some overlap into my area in terms of managing those leases. I'm not really in a position to comment to say that I can or can't do that.
We can talk about it.
It's a different committee perhaps.
I think that would be included where it says further work is required to ensure that we have robust records for our land and land uses. So I'm happy that would be part of that.
I will move
those 3 points that we have. Thank you, Councillor Evans, seconded by Councillor Ludlow. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Wilma, for your assistance there. Right, Regional Software Holdings update. Still a bit behind time.
Right, I'll be very brief in terms of that. So Regional Software Holdings Limited update. So three points tonight. So first of all, The RSHL chair has acknowledged the well thought out feedback from Environment Southland on the draft statement of intent, and whilst timing did not allow for direct incorporation, we did receive correspondence where the chair explained to us how the principles feed into the what they've incorporated into their overall strategy. So just noting that. Noting that the final statement of intent is now included for your information. And then also noting that the board appointment process has now concluded, and RSHL accepted my nomination for a non-independent director position. That's expected to be confirmed by a resolution at the AGM on the 27th of November. So those are the key points.
Any questions on that report?
I thought we were finished paying these people at the last report a year ago.
That's the other
And
one.
we've still got another 25,000 to pay.
That's the risk pool, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That's our next paper.
That's
Oh,
the
sorry,
next-
I've
next
got
item.
myself one, okay.
All right, so we'd like to move the recommendation that we receive that report. Councillor Ludlow, seconded by Councillor Evans. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. It's carried. Right, now move on to the risk pool update, 10.7.
So a couple of call outs here as well. So first of all, just noting we're an historic contributor to the risk pool insurance scheme. The council's contributed to a pool that covered the insurance requirements. We've asked a couple of questions and we've still got a bit of clarification ongoing, but we've received clarification that contribution percentages were set according to each council's risk profile at the time, rather than necessarily the council's size. So that was clarification about why our proportion of contribution is what it is. And our contribution proportion varies depending on the year the call is being made against, and that's in proportion to our share of contribution for that year. So where there's been a shortfall in what was contributed versus what was required, retrospective claims are being made in proportion to what each council contributed. So that is why the calls made against us have varied as a percentage year to year. I do still have a couple of questions to get further clarity on that, but that's what we've received back thus far. And we've been advised that the length of time before all claims and obligations are resolved is going to depend on how long it takes to resolve legacy claims. And that there are proceedings and a number of issues which make it hard to determine how quickly these legacy claims will be settled. So that's partly in relation to your question, Alistair. I did ask the question, do we know when we will be able to stop contributing when all claims will be settled, and I haven't received a straightforward answer is the short response.
Because
Is that all right, Alistair?
from my memory, and I might be wrong, the last year was 64,000, which seemed a whole lot of money. It sort of seemed to me as though it was going to cancel it off, but it's not.
No, it's ongoing until all legacy claims have been resolved.
Any other questions on that one?
Make it strong.
Right, somebody like to move the report, close the
Time sheet.
report, please.
I can move that report.
Councillor Evans, seconded by Councillor Woodson. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you very much. Great South Statement of Intent, 10.8. Rachel, welcome.
This is a fairly straightforward item. It's the receipt of the final statement of intent for both Great South and Space Operations New Zealand for the current financial year. We're actually about to have an item come through for the letter of expectation for next financial year. Recall the process is that initial letter of expectation, Great South then develops up their statement of intent, which comes back to the councils for any further feedback, and then they prepare the final document. So this item is just really advising you those final documents are aware and highlighting the changes from the version that you've seen previously.
Right, thank you. Yes, we had a good report from Great South just a little while ago, and they came and talked to us about what they are doing. So Anybody got any questions on that? No questions? Yes, go ahead.
The answers the above.
Just go to just a couple of minutes. We've got a couple of other things to deal with and then we'll do that day. So we'd like to move that we receive that report.
I can do that, Chair.
Seconded by Gibson. 2 items there, receive the report and acknowledge receipt of their statement of intent. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
It's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. 2.9, the annual activity report.
Just there for noting.
Information about what we do at each meeting.
Nothing to.
Okay. So we'd like to move that, we'll receive that report, please.
I can do that.
Councillor Evans, Councillor McPhail, all those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you, Patrick.
Right now, Dave has just advised that he's got some information for us in relation to the Bluff Fallout facility. So with your permission, we will hear that. Is that okay? Is everybody happy with that? Okay, thank you, Dave.
It went to council on the 31st of October 2018. Councillor McPhail, you were present. It wasn't confidential, and it was a report by Ken Swinney. And
Well,
Ken,
if it wasn't confidential, do we need to go back into confidential?
you're just asking me whether it's been to council, and I think that it's, if you have a look at your public minutes, it says you're going into confidential to discuss
Yes.
this matter, so it's known that you discussed it in confidential. So I'm not giving you any of the confidential information, I'm just giving you your minutes, your public minutes showed that you discussed it. In your confidential, it did show that you had the full agreement and you did approve it. So, yes, you didn't move it, councillor McPhail, but one of the councillors here did, I think. So, yes, so. And look, I've got a copy of the minutes and the there if you would like it circulated. Please.
We'll do
And
that.
I think you'll find you won't find the confidential minutes online, but you will certainly find the ordinary minutes. So just, yes, yeah, those are the confidential minutes. So yeah, whether you want those circulated or not.
Thanks for that.
Over to you.
I'm happy not to receive them, but I am happy to receive the minutes saying we're gonna do it.
Well, we're working on it. We are, yes.
Right, so now we do go into extra. We haven't got any extraordinary business, we've got public excluded business. Somebody like to move that we go into public excluded, please? And the reasons are set out there in the agenda. Is somebody like to read that out?
Grounds on which part of the council or committee may be closed to the public are the grounds in section 48(1) of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987. Section 7 to H, to enable the local authority holding the information to carry out without prejudice and disadvantage commercial activities.
Thank you. Somebody like to move that? Alistair, seconded by Jeremy. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. It's carried.
Excuse me, Chairman, I just want to give you a heads up that I'm expecting a phone call at 12:20, so if I zip out, it's
Thank you.
unavoidable.
We're due to finish at 12:20, so we will.
I'm going to end the live stream now.
So we make sure we are not online now.
Stream is finished.